Years ago, we covered the stands of Stardust Crusaders, yet now we're gonna dial it back to before Yu-Gi-Oh! Monsters emerged from bodies to fight and instead focus on the enemies of parts 1 and 2. While the idea of vampires and ancient beings would largely be forgotten by the time stands rolled around, you can't help but think how deadly a world ruled by vampires and the pillarmen that lead them would pan out to be like, especially if they achieved the ultimate goal of their leader, cars. Vampires can easily be vaporized with some sunlight and planning, right? Well, vamps, zombies, monsters, and nigh invincible testosterone-fueled beefcakes have a lot to their arsenal to exterminate our terms of survivability and, dare I say, the entirety of the human race? Well, let's get into it, as today we are discussing why you wouldn't survive JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, Vampires, Zombies, and Pillarmen. The adventure may be bizarre and you might die to cars, but it doesn't have to be bizarre or murder on your wallet to buy video games thanks to today's sponsor, Aniba, a gaming marketplace home to over 40,000 digital products across all gaming platforms from PC to PlayStation to Xbox to even Nintendo. I was having a hankering to play the Darksiders trilogy and got each entry for under $4. Worked like a charm and ended up getting Silent Hill Homecoming, the first Tomb Raider trilogy remaster, and the remakes of Destroy All Humans 1 and 2, all for under $7 each. Save the big bucks and get an extra 9% off on games, gift card subscriptions, DLCs, game points, and more with code GETTINGHOT right now until June 22nd at 12 p.m. all CET time, and see the code return June 26th at 10 a.m. until June 29th at 12 p.m. Check it out for yourself. Hell, you even get cashback rewards on some of the stuff you purchase. With an excellent Trustpilot score and 24/7 live support on all purchases, Aniba is fast, secure, and reliable. Check it out now by clicking the link in the description and pinned comment below and save some cash on the games you've been wanting to try right now at aniba.com. Long before humanity would gain prominence as a societal race, there existed beings that would be referred to as the Tribe of Darkness. Developing deep within the dark and dank caves of subterranean areas, they developed to thrive where the sun don't shine, leaving humanity in its earliest incarnations to be largely untouched and barely interacted with, as they lived out what could only be described as being near immortal individuals. Their bodies were able to exist for tens of thousands of years without aging, as long as they absorbed the bodies of plants and animals alike, buffing their physique and athletic abilities to be far beyond anything we can achieve, adding to their own lifespan to have near perpetual longevity. This comes at the cost of never being able to be touched by direct sunlight. While some of the group have lived as long as hundreds of thousands of years, they still kept themselves to a relatively small population number, having the capability to reproduce, but them not seeing the point, living in peace underneath the earth and seeing themselves as perfect creatures that could not die. They saw no purpose in procreation, basically reserving themselves to a perpetual lifestyle for many millennia. That is, until the being named Cars rose to prominence. Seeing himself and others as imperfect creatures, he sought out perfection, to break free of the countless millennia of stagnation his people had mired in, knowing they could easily conquer and rule over the planet and all of its inhabitants to use them as they please, only being held back by their deficiency of vitamin D, burning them hellaciously and turning them to ash if exposed for too long. Looking to eradicate their weakness, he discerned a certain part of their brain was behind this and created something called the stone masks, devices that, when affixed to a person's face and exposed to blood, will sprout stone tendrils that will pierce the wearer's skull. While one would assume this would mean death, the tendrils were created to specifically target parts of the brain that limit a humanoid's own natural limitations. During tests, these masks would transform normal humans, but the mask simply could not push those of the tribe's brains far enough to achieve this goal. The mask's potential, coinciding with Cars devouring more and more organic life than anywhere near you usual alarmed his tribe. Having been born as a genius in every regard and now growing in strength beyond anything the Tribe of Darkness had ever seen, they knew he was a threat to their dominion and attacked him. Kars, however, would slaughter every last one of his kin, even his own mother and father, sparing only his friend AC/DC and 2 infant babies named Wamu and Santana. He eradicated his people's past so that he may push towards his own future, one that mandated the use of his stone mask. The foursome would abduct and experiment on humans for ages, becoming almost mythological to them, consuming them, subjecting them to the mask to find differences in the way it pierced the brain and how it transformed individuals, creating armies of hundreds of thousands of vampires to control them as puppets to fight and to feed off of them for further power. However, humanity did not provide much beyond drones and food. The studies showed nothing for the Tribe of Darkness. Knowing that it needed more power, Kars discovered that the Roman Empire was in possession of something called the Red Stone of Asia. A one-of-a-kind, flawless jewel that could refract light millions of times as focused energy, enough to strengthen a stone mask to make someone of the Tribe of Darkness immune to the sun, getting rid of their only weakness. Launching an attack on Rome, a group known as the Ripple clan tried to retaliate. Ripple being an ancient form of martial arts that, through the perfect control of breathing, created energy akin to the sun in order to fully combat and kill creatures of darkness. However, even with that kind of natural offense, the entire clan, save for a few members, would be completely wiped out. Kars and his 3 minions, however, could not find the stone and elected to encase themselves in stone under the Roman Colosseum for years to be immune to the sun in case they were unearthed and await the day the stone would emerge. The Aztecs, having witnessed them firsthand in what they did, prophesied that these 4 individuals, labeled now the Pillarmen since they were encased in a stone pillar, would reawaken within the Aztec calendar year of 2852, or within our own calendar years, 1938 D. Nazi researchers would be excavating to find these fabled Pillarmen in order to use them to further their own superiority interests. But once blood was drawn on them, they would all awaken, unleashing their fury, absorbing people, turning all of our weapons into nothing that we can do against them, even light being nothing, turning all the soldiers into vampires, and continuing their search for the Red Stone of Aja. This is where we will break from the narrative of the original story of Part 2, acting as if the Pillarmen were awakened today instead, and without the bloodline of the Joestar clan to save us all. What is it about these tribesmen turned Pillarmen and the abilities of the vampires they create mean for you and everyone else's on Earth's survival? Before even considering going after the big boys though, there are the primary threats of the first part of the series, Phantom Blood, and that is the vampires. The Stone Mask will not have Dio at the helm in this scenario, but the remnants of the Tribe of Darkness turning people into bloodsuckers and ghouls, creating and using dozens or even hundreds of stone masks to give out to vampires or for each of the 4 Pillarmen to use as they please. These face coverings piercing your skull, killing what you were to make you into a formidable deadeye, serving your new masters with a new craving for blood and a deathly allergy to direct and sometimes indirect sunlight. When imagining a typical vampire, you're probably thinking somewhere between the Adam Sandler shape-shifting Dracula to 30 Days of Night's Nosferatu-born vamps. But this specific incarnation holds with them so much more diverse capabilities in conjunction with their creators. Jojo's vamps are insanely strong, having enough strength in each finger, measurable up to over 4,500 pounds per square inch, able to pierce through most defenses with the simple flick of a wrist. Dio was able to pick up a steamroller like it was just a box in his final confrontation, being able to throw objects at such speed and force that small marbles can even explode the heads of victims, even being able to throw a damn life preserver so fast it can blow the brains out of a person. Their agility matches this insane jump in strength, with them being able to jump almost 14 feet in the air and running at speeds greater than the top speed of a full sprint cheetah, able to scale any surface, cling to any wall or ceiling, and even manipulate their own flesh for a multitude of purposes, while using their heightened senses to easily detect their prey and holdouts from afar. Those like Wired Beck in Part 1, who can create razor-sharp spikes all over the body to impale attackers, or those that he attacks with his own body, camouflaging the entire frame to blend in with environments to get the drop on people. Others are able to shapeshift their faces to deceive others into thinking they're someone else. Being able to mold weapons, jagged creations, and reconstruct one's own appearance at will to make infiltration and deception a pretty common practice to indoctrinate humans rapidly and under the radar. Their bodies can also rapidly regenerate and heal any damage they receive if given the proper energy to do so. We're not just talking about scratches and bullet wounds, mind you. You're gonna shoot them in the chest or cut off a limb, but completely removing parts of their body or creating new limbs altogether. They can even survive being beheaded to just reattach to the decapitated body or attached to a separate body entirely, such as when Dio affixed his head to the dead Joseph Joestar's body in the coffin at the bottom of the sea. Some stronger vampires can even be regenerated from being blown to bits if enough energy exists, like when Strizo was blown up by a grenade. Tendrils within the flesh will achieve these goals of self-preservation and construction, attaching to all the bits to make sure the body can come back together. To fuel this achievement, each vampire will drain the life force of any living being it can grab. However, this is beyond the traditional bite me and suck me kind of vamp kid. All these types need to do is get their hands on you. Their fingers will pierce your flesh to drain your blood and life force through those tips and rapidly drain the life from your body, healing them almost instantly as they do so. This doesn't mean they won't grow sharpened fangs to rip your flesh apart. They will have sharp fangs to do so, and any animal is capable of being vampirified. So as long as these ghoulish figures avoid natural light, they will never age, retaining the physique and look of a young adult, even if they were old and frail, disabled, too young, or more. For many, this would actually be preferable to de-shackle themselves from disabling ailments and the ravages of time, a powerful coercion tactic. Vampires themselves are extremely effective in manipulation, not just through changing themselves, but using mental hypnosis to bend regular humans' minds to their every whim, controlling their every action to serve their goals, with the only way to nullify the hypnotic spell by using the aforementioned ripple energy to the brain directly or killing the offending vampire. If a vampire exists long enough and masters their flesh, they can remove cells and pieces of their body and transform them into something called a flesh bud, little masses that can be inserted directly into the brain of a victim via the finger injection method. From there, the flesh bud will pierce the brain in a different way than the stone mask, corrupting one's mind to be a loyal servant of the creator of said flesh bud. Over time, the bud will devour more and more of the victim's gray matter till nothing is left but a hollow puppet. If one attempts to perform surgery and remove the flesh bud to get them out of the vampire's curse, the bud will sprout tentacles with razor-sharp edges to kill both the host and the individual attempting to remove it. With this manipulation in mind, it's not hard to see how easy it would be for just about any strong-willed vampire to take control of high-profile individuals the world over to make it easier for their kind to take over, gathering information on any defenses we are trying to procure and safe zones we are trying to hide, and any countermeasures of using UV rays, sunlight, and more. Even if we show a decent enough resistance to them, the vampires just keep showing other worldly abilities while they are getting under the radar with us. Some are able to take the moisture in the air nearby and instantly freeze it, using this ice conjuration to trap victims in ice, either via their limbs or entire bodies, possibly even allowing them to freeze bodies of water to prevent escape via boats or swimming. The control of their bodies even means down to their fluids, being able to propel blood out from their eyes at light speed, basically shooting lasers out of their eyes to bisect anything they can come in contact with at a far distance. Now, while vampires can be considered underlings of the Pillarmen, they are not the bottom rung of the army seeking to to eradicate or indoctrinate all of mankind, as vampires also have the ability to transform normal humans into zombies. Zombies being created from the people that have their life force drained by a vampire, but not given a mask, infected by molecules injected via the vampire to reanimate from the dead in their pruny and dried state. Serving the needs of their vampire overlords, they can bite and infect others to spread and up their numbers like a traditional zombie would. The infection and turn time is less than a minute per person, causing entire settlements and buildings to switch teams in less than an hour. Each new zombie serving one master vampire that started each infection outbreak. They share the same craving for blood as their masters do, but do not regenerate like them. Being like the traditional shambling corpses, they cannot be killed via conventional methods and do not require beheading, but instead require exposure to sunlight to burn them away. They will continue to live as long as their body is somewhat intact. And just like normal zombies, their strength is greatly amplified, but their bodies will begin to decay as any corpse would. If the individual zombified has a greater power of will though, they will retain their personalities and use them to become basically sentient and dexterous zombies, able to be comprised of any amalgamation of flesh that one can cobble together. The vampires are able to hybridize humans with animals to create chimera zombies, abominations of nature fused in the flesh of random parts from any and all humans and animals, lending them to have the same abilities and specs as their fused parts. Probably the most brutal ability of theirs, though, is to resurrect any dead body from any era so long as the corpse is intact, to add to their zombie army. Dio, for instance, had awakened the fictional characters of Tarkus and Bruford, who apparently were champion fighters under Scottish domain eras ago. But one could say you could resurrect many important people and figures that, for political and religious influence or renowned strategists and wartime fighters, to make the forces formidable and more organized. All zombies working in dark corridors and in the dead of night with their vampire masters to swarm, overwhelm, and infect, finding dead bodies to enlist, animals to bisect and attach, and legions of people to sift through and make into mindless dead, or find strong-willed people to create leader sentient zombies. You could see political figures taking over and making people think, oh, the second coming of what's his name and who's it's just going to have people going all over the place, and then you'll have champion fighters that will become super strong, all while vampires themselves will be beyond formidable, using their over a dozen abilities to easily slaughter anyone they see fit, freezing you, lasering you apart, ripping you in half, and even having their fingers seep into your flesh to suck you dry, or give you the ultimate head and control you. No matter how we fight back, guns, explosions, and even goddamn nukes, the vampires would more than likely regenerate and just find more people and animals to transform into the undead army, taking control of the minds of countless souls and bodies, turning people into flying abominations, having literal demons of twisted flesh. Our greatest offenses would prove to be ineffective long-term, with numbers transition so rapidly to their side, and vampire lords regenerating ad nauseum. Now, you can easily say that you would pull something like, I don't know, Dying Light, and set up UV lighting and traps and operate all during the daytime exclusively, and then go into your bunker with impenetrable areas with constant UV rays to prevent the vampires and zombies from infiltrating, and if they try to do so, disintegrating them if they approach. But through it all, the zombies and vampires are just elementary and middle school, my dear Watson, compared to the Giga Brain Masters College that is the Pillarmen. One Pillarman being encased in stone by himself in Mexico, possibly as a scout away from his masters in Rome, that long went dormant, retaining incredible amounts of powers and abilities, leagues above anything their dead denizens could muster in terms of strength, agility, durability, transformation, and way more. Zombies and vampires are there to just be foot soldiers and recruiters, doing all the dirty work for the Pillarmen, while these basically demigods are searching for a way to become eternal and immortal. While vampires possess the strength in their hands of up to 4,500 pounds per square inch, the pillar men laugh at that as they reach close to 14,000 pounds per square inch. Think of your finger having the force of a 45 Colt Magnum, triple the strength of a vampire, with even parts of the ribs being able to be poked out and exert pressure of up to nearly 12,000 psi. While zombies can be ripped apart and remain alive, and vampires can regenerate after being torn asunder, the pillar men's durability allows them to just not be eviscerated, being unharmed by gunfire, great falls, and explosions, almost cartoonishly so, as we see with AC/DC, who gulped down an entire stick of dynamite only for it to explode in his guts and expand his stomach like a pyrocynical fetish. Literally, even from within, a high-power blast does nothing to them. Only the power of the sun or ripple can do anything to their frame in their current form. Their speed also amplified beyond their minions, achieving velocities beyond the firing speed of a light machine gun's bullets, so they can just show off and slice all the bullets in half in the span of a second, estimating them at the agility of at least about 3,000 feet or 900 meters per second, faster than the eye can even track. Even from the point that they are discovered by modern man, will they be observing us as pillar-like statues. They will always be aware and fully sentient, using their faux fossilized state to observe anyone nearby, to learn anything about them, to know their maneuvers, language, weapons, and more, able to harness their form to attack anyone nearby as a surprise maneuver, as we saw with the Nazi soldiers under the Roman Colosseum, who were directly attacked by the hole in one of the statues. Even if a pillar man were to be exposed fully to sunlight, they would just turn to stone to preserve themselves. Even in a statuous state, they will be alive and sentient, with any life that approaches them being magnetized to their frame to turn the life form to stone to feed off their life force. Either that or touching the respective stone affixed to each statue would proc them to attack, as happened with Caesar Zeppoli's father, who was impaled by razor-sharp hooks and drug into Cars' statue to be absorbed. Even in dormancy, they can eat you whole, even while constantly exposed to UV light to deter reawakening. Even if you are able to get them into direct sunlight or UV rays, they could simply meld themselves into cracks in walls to slip away, or even go into an exposed wound of a person to hide themselves away while taking over the body, kind of like Baby in Dragon Ball GT. They must be completely destroyed, or they will find a way to preserve themselves. Their intellect is unrivaled, able to adapt to any environment just by observation, learning any given language just by listening to people's conversations for a few minutes, mastering any given art or procedure, such as meticulously disassembling a firearm in seconds flat, able to take the ammunition from our own guns, store them in their own body to shoot them out faster than any firearm to mow down foes in mere moments, or pinpointing every intricacy of any battle plan the moment it is put in motion. Any strategy to combat them will be countered before it can even move forward. So much so that the pillar man will even know you better than yourself just by looking you head to toe and speaking with you for a few moments, predicting anything you will do before you do it. They will know you better than yourself. This intellect being backed up by all senses being in permanent overdrive, like Cars feeling the heat of every single human in one room to accurately read how many non-threats were in his vicinity so that he can consume them without anyone slipping out. Enhanced smell to sniff out prey, and the use of non-human extremities like horns to triangulate the flow of the wind to literally feel the breathing of others to sniff and snuff them out. Just like the vampires, the pillarmen can mutate their bodies heavily on a whim to fit their needs, disjointing, breaking, and dismembering themselves to manipulate their bodies to create lightning-fast, jagged rib cages to attack others, move limbs individually from one another if they are separated to operate as separate entities, and even to the extent that they can turn themselves into basically puddles of mush so they can move through tight spaces like vents or pipes. Kinda sus. Using the morphing of flesh to be able to dodge attacks and ensure even ones that would prove to be damaging or even fatal would miss entirely. literally turning what most would assume as disadvantages into their advantage. Got them stuck in a holding cell? They can leak themselves out. You somehow blew them to bits? They can operate those bits to attack you by the thousands, like Majin Buu when he was exploded to bits. With the exploded bits of flesh of these pillarmen being able to act like the slither parasites, attaching themselves to any flesh or biomaterial nearby to feed upon to gain enough strength to rebuild the entire body back to normal, or using the bits to pierce a human's flesh and bind with it to keep them in place so the main body can do what it wants. Nearly limitless potential fueled by their means of consumption. And while similar to the vampires in the method of fingering a victim to drain them, the pillarmen are more, let's say, diverse and orgasmic. Pillarmen can drain you in way more varied ways, with every cell of their bodies being composed of digestive enzymes. When activated, coming into contact with anything organic and not of their own race, it not only can dissolve and absorb their bodies in any way, but also releases a near transcendent feeling in the victim, replacing any and all pain within the brain of this person to be enhanced pleasure. You would literally bust in a fat one as you were eaten whole, but each pillarman will do their own process of consumption in different ways. Some will choose to enter your body whole and take control of your motor skills as your insides are slowly dissolved away, controlling you as you are eaten alive. Some may choose to literally fuse the flesh of multiple victims in the span of just a second to bind them together in a sick way of connecting them all so that they may be all drained in one motion. Think of it like a human centipede connected by arms and then they all get sucked dry, even able to take the body parts of some of their victims to graft them to their own frame as they see fit. Even their methods of eating can be a wide-scale death sentence in moments. Godly entities that can dissect everything about us, our culture, our language, our technology, strategies, our innermost thoughts, and even our bodies. They are able to stick their fingers into the mind of any person to instantaneously gain every bit of knowledge that they know, to gain advantage over upcoming battles or hidden areas, or to more methodically comb out people to kill, enslave, or ensure any counterattacks by us are promptly thwarted. Anything we know, they can know in a moment's notice, just to convert our lives into healing minor wounds, forcing the stone mask on countless innocents to turn into vampires, to in turn make countless zombies, all looking for blood, flesh, and using our own intelligence and minds against us, creating unkillable nightmarish monsters resistant to so much damage. Every foot soldier and pillarman alike able to destroy anything in front of them, scale any surface, catch up to any speeding vehicle, infiltrate any compound via body transformation, hypnosis, hijacking a body, seizing former leaders and fighters for their image and prowess by digging them up or killing them and taking them over, using hypnotized innocent young humans as bait to bring in unwary people to places like graveyards, swarming with zombies underneath the ground, disabling all weaponry we have, even down to our most deadly ones like the atom bomb, bringing forth monsters of all shapes and sizes to quell our resolve and crush our bones, and wiping out whatever we can struggle to even put together from the scraps of our losing world. Zawardo will be easily taken over by all these tribes of darkness forces. Each pillarman will choose to focus on mastering a natural element for their style of combat, such as Wamu being able to harness moisture in the air to coat himself in air and water to refract and reflect light away from his body to make him immune to light for extended periods, while sprouting jets in his body to propel him at high speeds and slice apart prey, creating streams of high-pressure cyclones and tornadoes to punch through and pierce any target, as well as picking up any debris to create a powerful sandstorm to rip apart anyone to shreds. But even if we somehow, someway, in some manner, find a way to best them in combat and start using the sun and UV lighting to eradicate them and push them back, it will most likely be too little too late, boiling down to the ultimate goal of Kars, attaining the red stone of Aja. If Kars attains this fabled jewel, affixes it to a stone mask and places it on his face, it's game over. Any UV light or solar energy that hits that jewel will cause limitless energy to flow through the mask and then pierce Kars' skull to transform him into what can only be called the ultimate life form, most notably being immune to UV rays in sunlight to eradicate the final weakness of the Tribe of Darkness. Not only that, but using it as a weapon. The ultimate life form will be able to utilize the fighting style of Ripple, or what I should be saying as Hamon, that once threatened them to slaughter opposition. The body will be immune to all forms of damage. It will never age, never need to rest, and can live without sustenance for over a year. The senses amplified to that of Superman quality, having telescopic vision to see even into the far reaches of space from the surface of Earth, have supersonic hearing, and an IQ measured around 400. How that was estimated, no idea. Jumping heights of nearly 60 feet and having the strength of up to 30,000 psi. Also, mastering the concept of transmutation to morph their own form into that of any man, animal, or plant known on Earth to fit his needs. Growing wings to fly at will, fins to swim at high speeds, thicker skin to take any damage without any deterrence, even creating jets of air out of his flesh to propel him in any desired direction. You name it. Literally a Swiss Army knife of any and all capabilities of an end-of-the-world threat. There is nothing we can do to stop them when they have an ultimate life form. Literally a god that was only defeated in the anime via pure plot devices, armor, and insane luck that propelled him up a volcanic eruption into space, not to die, but something much worse. To turn to stone to survive the vast, cold emptiness of the cosmos, to eternally float, to never die, as a hybrid of animal, stone, and Tribe of Darkness, eventually slipping into empty thought without a soul to speak to him for eternity. This is the only realistic way to defeat an immortal, to put them into perpetual purgatory, and we are not achieving all that. Now in our look, by the time we have made amazing strides in UV ray beams, weaponizing it, and technology and all that and something of that nature, cars will have already achieved this form, and world governments would shoot their massive loads into cars just for him to power up. The only weakness he had will now just give him a buff. Trying to kill him will only make him stronger. He will wreak untold havoc globally to rule over us like a physical god. The options for our survival would either to be slaughtered fighting back, consumed by pillar, vamps, or zombos, and reanimate as zombos, hope to have a stone mask and blood put on our faces to vampirify, eventually pissing off the Pillar Man where they will eat us as zombies or vampires. So even if you switch teams, you are basically going to be eaten at some point because the food sources are going to diminish over time, and eventually just have the entire human race crumble to be consumed by muscular dudes with a perfection complex and bulging muscles. No matter where you go, your brainwaves, your scent, your movements will all be detected by any number of horrific beings that will break down the walls around you, burrow through the ground underneath you, hypnotize your loved ones to infect you, and more. Also, humanity can literally become Gym Bro Goth Guy Whey Protein Powder. Sure to support the channel by going to Gamersups and using my code WOW at checkout for 10% off your entire order. Get you some today, or you can contribute to me on Patreon as a patron, or become a YouTube channel member to be featured on this list that's already going by right now. Until next time, I'm Zach S, aka Wow Such Gaming. Never forget to stay happy, stay healthy, stay sane, stay buff, and most importantly, stay wow.